A year after they kicked me out, I stood in front of my parents' house holding the deed with my name on it. They were inside packing boxes still arguing about who was to blame. But that day wasn't revenge, it was balance. Because just 12 months earlier, they'd charged me $2,000 a month to live in my childhood bedroom and then raised it to 3. They called it teaching me responsibility. I called it the moment I stopped being their daughter and started becoming their landlord. They thought they'd taught me a lesson. They just didn't know class was still in session. I grew up in that same house, the pale yellow colonial at the end of Willow Lane, the one with the leaning mailbox and the porch swing that never stopped squeaking. To anyone passing by, it looked peaceful like a picture from a suburban postcard. But inside, there was always a quiet scoreboard running: who gave more, who cost more, who mattered more. My parents, Charles and Deborah, loved to talk about how nothing in life is free. My sister Sienna somehow never heard that part. She was the golden one, the dreamer, the girl who just needed a little more time to find herself. When she dropped out of college, they bought her a car. When I graduated top of my class, they told me not to brag. I started working right after school long hours at a design firm downtown. My parents called it cute. They said I should be grateful to still live under their roof. I paid for my own gas, my own food, even fixed the leaky faucet Dad swore he'd get to next weekend. I didn't complain. That's not who I was. I just worked, saved, and dreamed of the day I'd have a space that was truly mine. Then came the dinner. Thursday night meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Mom's serious talk meal. I already knew something was coming by the way Dad cleared his throat before we even sat down. "You've got a steady job now," Mom said, slicing her meatloaf like she was negotiating peace. "It's time you start contributing." I thought she meant groceries, maybe utilities. I nodded. "Sure, what do you need, $2,000 a month?" she said. "That covers room, board, and bills." I laughed. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Sienna grinned, twirling her fork. "I guess hard work really doesn't pay off, huh?" Dad didn't look up from his plate. "Your mother and I have carried this family long enough. It's time you learned what adulthood costs." My stomach dropped. My own parents charging me rent for my childhood room, while my unemployed sister and her new boyfriend, Adam, spent all day watching TV downstairs. I wanted to scream to ask how fairness fit into their idea of family, but I didn't. I just nodded and said, "Fine." Mom smiled, satisfied. First payments due on the 1st. That was it. No thank you. No talk of boundaries or understanding. Just a transaction. That night, lying in the same bed I'd had since high school, I stared at the ceiling fan, spinning slow and uneven like it was mocking me. I told myself it was temporary, just until I built something of my own. They thought they were teaching me responsibility. But what they really did was teach me how to stop asking for permission. 4 months passed like that work pay repeat. Every first of the month, I wired $2,000 straight into my parents' account. No one said thank you. No one even mentioned it. As long as the money arrived, I was invisible again. Meanwhile, Sienna slept in until noon, complained about how corporate jobs kill creativity, and called Adam her partner in manifestation. He lived rent-free on our couch, eating the groceries I paid for calling me roomie like it was a joke. Sometimes I'd come home from the firm, exhausted, covered in paint dust, and find him lounging shirtless, drinking the last of my oat milk. "Don't glare at him," Maddie Mom would say. "He's family now." Family. That word used to mean warmth. Now it sounded like a bill I hadn't agreed to pay. I kept my head down, saving every dollar from the freelance work I did after hours. Ethan and I had started flipping a small property on the edge of town, a crumbling bungalow we bought for cheap. I told no one about it, not even my parents. It was my quiet rebellion. Then came the night everything cracked. Dinner again, always dinner. Mom had made her serious meal meatloaf same as before. The smell used to mean home. Now it made my chest tighten. Charles cleared his throat. "Utilities have gone up," he said flatly. I looked up fork halfway to my mouth. "Okay." Mom folded her napkin like she was about to deliver a business proposal. "Since Adam's been staying here, food costs have increased. Electricity, too. We've decided your rent will now be $3,000. $3,000. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. My sister looked right at me, smirking. Adam chuckled under his breath. "Excuse me." Mom took a calm sip of water. "You're earning more now, aren't you? You can handle it." We're teaching you responsibility." Sienna laughed softly. "Guess you're getting the deluxe package." The words hit harder than any slap could have. My own parents treating me like a tenant while the freeloaders got free cookies and praise. I stared at them one by one. Dad's eyes fixed on his newspaper, Mom's chin high, Sienna's grin growing wider. I could have exploded. I could have shouted every word I'd been choking down for years. But instead, I felt something colder settle inside me. "Fine," I said quietly. 3,000 it is." Mom nodded, pleased. "Good girl." I finished my meal in silence, every bite tasting like metal. That night, I sat at my desk and opened the folder from Ethan, the renovation photos, the profit estimates. We were weeks away from selling. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred, then whispered to myself, "That's the last payment they'll ever get." They thought they'd raised the rent, but really, they'd just raised the stakes. After that night, something in me went still. Not broken, just quiet. I kept paying right on time. 2,000 became 3. No arguments, no complaints. Every transfer came with the same message, rent for the month. Mom probably thought I was finally mature. Dad bragged to his coworkers about how he'd raised a responsible daughter. Sienna rolled her eyes and said I was too uptight to ever move out. They had no idea what I was building. The bungalow Ethan and I flipped sold faster than we expected, clean design, good staging cash offer. My cut alone was more than I'd made at the firm all year. We bought another house immediately, a 3-story Victorian with crumbling floors and century-old windows. I spent every spare hour there sanding walls, drawing floor plans, hauling lumber until my arms ached. Every swing of the hammer felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Back home, nothing changed. Adam still sprawled on the couch shouting at his video games. Mom kept texting reminders about next month's payment. Sienna complained about not finding a job that aligned with her energy. One night I came home to find Mom's note on my door. "Don't forget the 1st is tomorrow." She'd drawn a smiley face at the end. I sat on my bed staring at that yellow sticky note until the edges blurred. Then I picked it up, folded it once, and placed it in my drawer right beside my property contracts. That weekend, I started packing. Slowly, strategically. Winter coats. First it was July, no one would notice. Then, books I'd already read, a few pairs of shoes. I kept boxes stacked neatly in the closet behind old blankets. Every day, I took one more thing, small, quiet thefts of my own life. I memorized their schedules. Mom left at 7, Dad at noon. Sienna's boutique inventory shift every other Tuesday. Adam spent that same day at his friend's place playing games. That was my window. When Tuesday came, I called in sick to work, waited for the house to empty. By 12:30, silence filled every corner. I moved fast, 6 boxes, 2 suitcases, everything that mattered. Mrs. Perry next door waved as I loaded my car. "Moving already?" she asked. "Just a few things," I said, smiling. Back inside, I left one final note on the kitchen table, written on Mom's fancy stationery. "I've moved out. Utilities in my name will end in 24 hours. I locked the door behind me. For the first time in my life, the air felt light. They thought I was their tenant. They were about to learn I'd just become something else entirely. The first night in my new place felt strange, too quiet. No footsteps upstairs, no television blaring from the living room, no one reminding me to be grateful. Just me, a half-finished kitchen, and the hum of the refrigerator. I sat on the floor eating pizza straight from the box and laughed. It wasn't freedom yet, but it was close. The calls started 2 hours later. First Mom, then Dad, then Sienna. Dozens of them. By midnight, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree, 43 missed calls. I turned it face down and kept unpacking. Their voices left messages anyway. Madison Marie Cole. Mom shrieked, "You get back here right now. This is not how family behaves. We need that money. The mortgage is due." Dad's voice came next, low and disappointed. "You're acting like a child. Come home and we'll talk about this like adults." Sienna's was shorter. "You selfish brat." I didn't respond. I blocked their numbers, powered off my phone, and went to bed. By morning, Aunt Grace called from a number I didn't recognize. "Your parents are saying you ran away?" she said softly. "What happened?" They raised my rent to $3,000, I said. I left. Silence, then a sharp inhale. $3,000. For your own room? Yep, Grace sighed. Honey, I can't say I blame you. For the next few weeks, I kept my head down. Ethan and I focused on the Victorian. The place was huge, beautiful in a haunted kind of way, high ceilings, cracked molding sun streaming through broken glass. Every nail I hammered, every coat of paint I rolled on felt like a wall going up between me and the past. By the time we sold it 8 months later, I wasn't just free, I was secure. The profit let us open our own company, MC Designs and Restorations. Ethan laughed when I told him what the initials really stood for. Madison's comeback, I said. Business took off fast, word spread. Within a year, we had 3 employees and a small office downtown. I never told my family. I didn't need to. Then, almost exactly 12 months after I'd walked out, Aunt Grace called again. Your parents are in trouble, she said. They're behind on the mortgage. They asked me for a $20,000 loan. I leaned back in my chair. Did you give it to them? Of course not, she said. But Madison, they might lose the house. I looked at the framed floor plan on my wall, the first blueprint I'd ever drawn labeled home. Then they lose it, I said quietly. Actions have consequences. A month later, I got an email from Ethan's realtor friend, Derek List, of upcoming foreclosures. I almost deleted it, but something made me scroll. There it was, 84 Willow Lane, my parents' house. I stared at the address for a full minute before calling Derek. That colonial on Willow, I said. Is it confirmed? Yeah. Bank's taking offers next week. Why make one? Cash. He whistled. You sure completely? 3 weeks later, it was done. The paperwork arrived on a Thursday morning, neat stack of forms, a shiny new deed with my name printed clean across the top. The same name Mom used to write on grocery lists and utility envelopes. Now, it sat above a property title. I didn't feel giddy. I didn't even smile. I just stared at it, feeling something settle like gravity, finally deciding where it belonged. I waited until the 29th day of their eviction notice before going back. It was a gray afternoon, the kind that smells like rain and old pavement. A moving truck sat in the driveway, the same spot where I used to park my beat-up sedan. Mom was on the porch, arms crossed, eyes red. Dad carried boxes out to the truck, silent. Sienna stood in the doorway, watching me like I was a ghost. You came to gloat, Mom snapped. I shook my head. No, I came to see my property. Dad froze mid-step. What are you talking about? I bought it, I said, holding up the deed. From the bank. For a long moment, no one spoke. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Then Sienna laughed, sharp, bitter. You bought it. That's hilarious. I looked straight at her. No, what's hilarious is that the bank didn't even counteroffer. Mom's lip trembled. You can't just, I didn't make you miss payments. You did that. Dad set his box down. So what now? You want to see us on the street? That's what this is about. No, I said evenly. I'm here to offer you a lease. Their eyes widened as I unfolded the papers. $2,500 a month, plus utilities. Same rate you charged me. Mom's face went pale. That's cruel, I shrugged. No, that's business. You taught me that. Sienna scoffed. You're unbelievable. Funny, I said. You all used to call me responsible. Looks like you were right. Dad rubbed his temples. We can't afford that, Madison. Then you'll have to find somewhere cheaper, I said. But if you want to stay, sign here. I held out the pen. No yelling, no threats, just silence and the ticking of the porch clock. Finally, Dad signed. Then Mom. Her hand shook. I can't believe you'd do this to your own family, she whispered. I can't believe you did it first, I said. Sienna grabbed the papers, scanned them, her eyes filling with tears. $50 late fee per day, fair's fair, I said. When they were done, I tucked the lease into my folder. The keys stay with me, I added. If you're late 3 months in a row, you're out. Mom started crying again. You don't mean this. I met her eyes. I do. Every word. As I turned to leave, she called after me. Madison, what about the internet? The bills. I looked back once. Those are the tenant's responsibilities. Then, I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away. I didn't look in the mirror until the next light. Through the rear view, I saw them standing there, tiny figures against the house that once made me feel small. They thought they'd raised my rent to break me. All they did was teach me how to own the roof they'd weaponized. And as I drove off, the rain finally started to fall soft, steady, cleansing. That was the day they moved out of their house. And I moved out of their shadow. 3 months later, the rent arrived on time. Every first of the month, a direct deposit labeled Cole Household landed in my account. No calls, no small talk, no "how are you?" Just money clean, emotionless, consistent. It was almost poetic. Ethan and I had grown the company to 8 employees. We were renovating 2 apartment buildings at once, designing spaces for families who reminded me of everything mine wasn't. Sometimes after long work days, I'd drive by Willow Lane. The porch light was on the lawn, trimmed the same curtains in the windows. From the outside, it looked normal again. But inside, the power had shifted forever. Then one morning, Aunt Grace called. "Your dad's in the hospital," she said quietly. "Chest pains. He's okay now, but..." Maybe visit I did. Mom was in the waiting room, shoulders slumped, eyes tired. She looked smaller somehow. When she saw me, she didn't yell. She just nodded. "He needs to slow down," she murmured. Dad was awake when I entered his room. He didn't apologize, and I didn't expect him to. He just looked at me for a long moment and said, "You did good, Maddie." For the first time, I believed him. When I left the hospital, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. The lesson had already been learned by all of us. They'd taught me what money could buy. I'd taught them what self-respect costs. A year has passed since then. They still live in that house, my house, paying rent every month. Mom started a small garden in the backyard. Dad works fewer hours now. Sienna finally kept a job, maybe for the first time in her life. Sometimes I stop by to drop off mail or paperwork. We don't hug, we don't fight. We just exist, separate, balanced. I don't know if that's forgiveness. Maybe it's something quieter, something earned. People always ask if I regret it. The truth. Not for a second, because family isn't about who raised you under their roof. It's about who respects you when you build your own. If you've ever had to draw that line, you're not alone. Hit subscribe for more stories like this.